Hi, everybody. It's Mandy on the moon here.
Yay.
Oh my God. Yes, the moment has arrived. And this is a very big moment. We are up to talking about the moon card in the tarot and what a synchronistic and appropriate day for us to be having this conversation because today is not just a new moon, but it's the first new moon of this entire decade, which is very exciting. And well, hey, we have to talk about the moon in this podcast. So I'm really excited about this. It is actually a new moon in Aquarius
Yay,
today, which is
Aquarius.
also, yeah, my star sign, Sally's star sign. Never mind about the Leos and the other people that are in opposition to us. So yeah, Sally, like, how excited are you about this new moon in Aquarius today?
I plan to use it fully.
Absolutely.
Nice
And yeah,
pun.
I mean, I don't know whether we can see any of the Aquarius, particularly energy, in this moon card, but the Aquarius new moon is all about groups of friends and being sort of charitable, and it's all about the bigger picture. And and there's something a little bit of sort of outside the box as well, and
Mhm.
just being a little bit different and, dare I say, eccentric, even though of course that doesn't apply to me. Does that apply to you, Sally? I don't know.
Oh, yes. I think I try to hide as a normal person, but I think I fail.
Everyone
Yeah.
knows, like, they call
I
you out. You're not normal, are you?
I think they do. I think they see through my abilities or my attempts to try and blend in.
Throw the Hierophant out the
Yes.
window. Let's embrace that moon. Right?
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I do remember back in the day when I went to drama school, one of the tutors actually said to me, Mandy, the day you accept the fact that you are eccentric, the happier you will be and the happier everybody else will be around you.
Aw.
And that sort of like stuck with me. And that was before I realised I could blame it all on Aquarius. But yeah, I mean, the new moon. I mean, there's a new moon once a month, and pretty much every time it kind of comes around to being a new moon again, it's moved into this is not absolutely every time, but mostly it's moved into the next star sign. So once a year there will be a new moon in Aquarius, and today is the day that we can celebrate this. So I don't know about you, or either of you, but when you get the moon card coming up in a tarot reading, do you ever literally kind of think, oh, I need to tell the client to sort of check out the actual moon, and whether it's where it's the phase of the moon and how it relates to them personally? Do you ever kind of go a bit astrological with it when this card comes up? Because I know I do.
It
Um,
does come up, yeah.
it never had for me until I started working with you, and now it's just
Oh
so
God.
serious.
Yeah.
It's such a part of my life, through the courses and through you, that it doesn't occur to me not to leave it out. It would feel
Mm.
like I was leaving out a bigger picture. It's
Hmm.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying every single time this card comes up, I just automatically kind of, by default, sort of say, oh, where's the moon today? How does it relate to you?
Hmm.
But I do find often I am going astrological. I mean, sometimes because the moon rules Cancer as well, like the sign of Cancer. And I do find sometimes it's saying to me, ask them about their home and their growing up and their background, or their mother, that sort of thing. Sometimes that is what this card is saying,
Hmm.
rather than going down the sort of, oh, it's all a big mystery and all that sort of, the
Hmm.
usual sort of ways of going with it. I love it when this card comes up, actually.
And
But
right
yeah,
now,
I
right this minute, I'm looking at the moon card and I'm feeling like such an idiot because for the first time I'm seeing the phases of the moon
Mm-hmm.
in that moon, dar.
Oh
Right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all there, isn't it? You've
Yeah,
you've got the kind of the new moon there, the full moon there,
give
the man in
us.
the moon.
Right?
Wow.
But it's alive, isn't it? The moon. I mean, we actually sort of see it kind of going through its stages. We watch it before our eyes without telescopes. I think it's amazing.
Man, I never saw that on the card before. I don't
Mm.
know how
Mm-hmm.
I missed that. It's so flippin' obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel the moon reminds us, because it is so close, and I feel it reminds us that we are part of a bigger universe. You know, you can't deny it. There's this thing in the sky every night that's changing shape every night. And also, I don't know if you may or may not know, it's not always exactly the same distance from the Earth as it goes round. Like sometimes it's a bit nearer or a bit further away, which is sometimes why it appears to be bigger. You know, so it's kind of, it's like a person. A person doesn't look or seem exactly the same every time you see them. They might be in different moods, or you know, or wearing something different, or whatever. And you can kind of pick up on the personality of it because you can just see it if you bother to look.
I
You notice it,
I used to
right?
tell my daughter, she has a brother, no sisters, and I have told her from the time she was very small that the moon was her sister. And so when I see
Oh,
this card, there's this woman's face in here, and the moon is her sister. And I know some people look at this card, it can be dark and ominous to them, but for me, it's my daughter's sister in the sky looking over her,
oh, that's lovely.
guiding her, taking care of her. And yeah, I guess I have personified the moon in that way because that's how I see the moon.
I love that. I
Hmm.
I'm
love that.
really glad you said that because I'd like to discuss how this is one of those cards out there on the tarot forums, the tarot sites that people really get knocked down, drag out,
Oh
ugly
no,
about.
Hmm.
Because
that's such a shame.
yeah, there's two schools of thought. It's ominous, it's dark, it's terrifying, it's shady, things are being hidden from you, it's deceptive. And then the other school of thought is that illumination, that lighting of the path, the
Yeah.
beauty of it. And I'm of the school of camp where Sally is. I love the moon. I see her as lighting that path for
Mm,
that poor little lobster to go bloop, bloop, bloop. He knows where to go. So,
yeah.
but I cannot honestly say that the person thinking that it's shady and deceptive is wrong. That's just their worldview. That's how they
Right.
see the moon. So,
Yeah.
I really,
Yeah.
really wanted to address that.
Yeah, and I agree with
Well,
everything you said. Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. And I think this is one of the most exciting alive cards. You know, in the deck, it really means something. And the more you tune into the real moon, I think the more it will mean to you as a reader. To be quite honest,
Yeah.
and um, I mean, like the other thing about the moon that kind of always kind of occurs to me is, you know, people have been watching the moon do its kind of cycles
Hmm.
since time began. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
It doesn't just
yes.
suddenly. I'm sure it's been there longer than any people, any of us, and it will continue to sort of be there doing its thing. And you know, people got information from it. You know, like when the seasons were, and things
Hmm.
to do with the tides and farming and all that sort of thing.
Emotions, everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
the moon has just kind of given so much information throughout the history of time. I think that's amazing. You got to respect it.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just think this is fantastic, this card. I mean, the tarot would be completely incomplete without it, wouldn't it? You know,
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some of the other things are more um illusionary, I think, than the moon. The moon is real.
Mm-hmm.
to everybody. So, I mean, I don't know why it's sort of seen as mysterious because it's there. It's an actual thing that we all believe. No one's going to deny its existence. Maybe the flat earthers might think it's some sort of thing that's been, I don't know, that's just been some spotlight or something. I don't know. I apologise if there's any flat earthers like listening to this. I don't quite know what they think about the moon, but I, I just think it's very, very real
I
to
can
everyone.
I can understand the ominous aspect that people get, however, the dark of night, things that go bump in the night,
Hmm.
Yeah,
when you don't have the outside illuminated by all, the street lights, et cetera, it could be a scary place. And maybe the only thing that is providing light is that moon. And then there's shadows, behind the tower,
yeah,
things creeping out of the water. I could get a sinister feel out of this if I were, so
yeah. But
inclined.
I get you. But if you lived in the olden days when there weren't any sort of like lights, I would imagine that people really um rejoiced when the moon was kind of more close to the full moon stage, where it was providing some light at night.
Yes, as long as you weren't wanting to skulk about, I agree.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Now, one thing too, right there is like I think in the olden times, when there were no streetlights or towards the new moon, when the moon was the only illumination at night, that
yeah,
might have gone for that shady, deceptive thing. But it
yeah,
does feel like the tarot evolves with the times that it belongs to. A
Hmm.
100 years later, we've got that school of camp that sees that moon in that beautiful light, no pun intended, um, in that
yeah,
in that in that nurturing way. So I think it's evolutionary. You can't let me rephrase that. I can't say you can't because I can't tell people how they're supposed to think.
Oh,
But
right.
yeah,
it's
yeah. Of
it's a
course,
little
yeah.
backward, in my opinion, to hold that card in the early 1900s when things around us didn't exist. This is today.
Hmm.
Yeah, true. Yes, when we have got street lights and things, so we don't necessarily rely on the moon to give us light in the dark in most places.
But they still have those farmers almanacs that track like
Mm.
farmers almanacs, not Wiccan or witches or anything, but actual, down to earth farmers that follow moon phases for when to plant their crops.
Yes, yes. And you still hear medical professionals, emergency service professionals say, "Oh, it's a full moon," or it it still
Yeah,
plays a part in their lives.
yeah, yeah. No, it's kind of I don't know. I think it's a big, big topic, actually. Even down to conspiracy theories, like
Hmm.
did they land on the moon or didn't they? I mean,
Right,
there's a lot of people that think that that's a conspiracy theory. So
right.
that could be what that card is saying in certain circumstances.
Absolutely. And it's I think I could say this about any card. I can see good things, I can see bad things with any card. Again, your
Yes.
intuition will kick in and tell you which way you need to go. But I think it's unfair to my clients if I approach each card with, a preconceived notion. Is it good? Is it
Yes,
bad?
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
I just
Yes. Yeah.
I I just have to be open to whatever intuition hits me at the time and realize that both are possible.
This
Yeah.
is one of the easier ones to be open to. Like we just did the star,
Hmm.
and that one it's really difficult to look at it in an upright position and see anything. This,
Hmm.
you know, it's
Yeah.
difficult. In a reading, it happens, but just out of context, it's like,
Hmm.
okay, I love her. With the moon, you can see there's so much going on in there. It could go either way.
Hmm.
It's more open
Yeah.
to no boundaries.
And talking of boundaries, I mean, there is clearly that path bang in the middle of the card that
Right.
is right in between those two creatures. It's kind of creating a sort of like a divide, isn't it?
Between
Between,
the creatures, between the towers. Yes, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So, and also, as opposed to, like, say, the temperance card where the path leads to, because I don't think this path is leading to the moon. The moon is just lighting up the path.
Mm-hmm.
But the path, you can't see where this path is leading. Whereas in the temperance card, you can see that it's leading to somewhere that's inviting. This, you don't know where this is leading. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's not giving it away, is it? But all you
No.
know is that there is a sort of clear divide that may be relevant to the reading either side of that path. It's I just think it's full of possibilities, this card. I think it's fascinating.
I do too. It's one of those cards you can look at and say, "Hey, there's a quest ahead of you. Don't know where it's going to take you,
Mm,
but
yeah.
there you go. And if you don't follow that path, you're going to miss out on something." I've seen that before.
And
Do
And
you ever
his
see this? Do you ever see this as the don't know card? Like literally, when someone says what's going to happen or whatever, is this going to happen, yes or no or whatever, and this one comes up. Sometimes I literally would just turn it on and go, I don't know. I don't know.
huh,
We're not
I
meant.
have
We're not.
not, but I can see
We're
that.
not. Sometimes it's like, well, I don't think we're supposed to know. Sorry, we don't know the answer to this at this moment. But again, I wouldn't go with that every time. But
no.
sometimes I have heard myself say that.
I know our high priestess is supposed to be very highly intuition, follow your intuition, but with this
Mm-hmm.
one I get, he's coming up out of that subconscious. He's following that little crawdad or lobster. So, yeah, you can tell
Yeah.
I'm from the South. It's a crawdad, dang it. Is following his path. He's following his heart. He knows there's danger. He's afraid. He's coming up out of his element to go onto the land. And he's afraid, but he's following his intuition in his heart. He's
Oh, that's
following that
nice.
illuminated path to find
Yeah, I like
out
that.
what he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
talk about the beasties on the land. Sometimes those will come up to me and just say, barking mad, literally.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I like
Yeah.
that. I like that. Yeah. Do you see one as a fox and one as a dog? Like two different creatures, like similar but different.
Yeah, I've seen them as like one tame, domesticated, and the other wild, and they're
Oh, that's
actually
nice.
coming
Yeah,
together to sing to the moon.
I like that.
A marriage of, sometimes I see it as recognizing that your wild side isn't necessarily a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
or that your
Hmm.
domesticated side isn't necessarily dual. It's like a duality inside of a person sometimes, if that made any sense.
Mm-hmm. So, Mandy, when you
Yeah,
were talking about the moon and Aquarius and friends and companions,
yeah,
I can see that trio being companions.
yes,
They're not at each other's throats. They
no.
are coexisting just fine.
And they're all like looking up to the moon, aren't they? They're
Mm-hmm.
all like conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
That no one's like oblivious to it. It's like the moon is sort of bringing something out of them that, like you said, that is joining them together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about the towers then? Because you've mentioned the towers before in other cards.
Yeah, the towers to me, I mean, they they can be the end of civilization. Here's civilized world beyond is wild world. I'm sorry, I can never get the Lord of the Rings out of my head when I see this card.
Oh, right.
I just I cannot separate the two. Um, but yeah, it's like it's an outpost. Here ends safety sometimes when I'm looking at this. You go
Right.
beyond here, anything's possible.
Yeah. The
Yeah, and that
wild unknown.
Yeah,
and that
yeah,
Isn't that the
path
name of a deck?
extends.
it
Oh
is.
yeah. And I see
Hmm.
them as possible, like temptations to quit that path, because that path extends beyond those towers. And
Hmm.
that
Yes.
might be the temptation, okay, this is as far as I'm going. You know, this is
You're
safety,
on, or
this is
you're on your
comfort.
own from this point onwards. If you go any further, yes,
Yeah.
good luck.
Right. And then, you have like the cultivated land here. It's trimmed, it's nice, it's your parkland. And then you go a little further and you've got the jagged mountains there. It's just, you're leaving some comfort behind, or you're going to
Yes.
stay in your comfort. It's maybe that point where you're saying, okay, are you going or are you staying?
I must admit, I did get this card has come up for me twice, once upright and once reverse in career readings, right? And one time and in a sense, I saw something similar, even though they were in different positions. But when it came up upright, I saw the person working in in films, like a sort of a lighting person,
Mm-hmm.
putting
Oh,
spotlights on
nice.
things. I just saw it as kind of the illumination thing, but in a kind of in an industry where you have to kind of light things up in a kind of like atmospheric way.
Mm-hmm.
Once that came into my head, I just it all came alive to me. I just saw all of that. It was really memorable. And the other time was somebody was sort of really at a loss of like what to do work wise, and this card came up reversed, and I said work with blind people
Mm.
Oh. And see, that's such
because
a beautiful way of showing how intuition comes into it. You're not going to find either of those in a book.
well
Nope.
I,
Nope.
I've got to tell you, the lady that I said go and work with blind people, she messaged me about a year later. She said, I don't know whether you remember. She said, but at my tarot reading with you, you told me to go and work with blind people. She said, I'm now a site coordinator for Barclays Bank,
Yeah.
whatever that means.
Wow.
So I was like, woohoo! Right, yeah, yeah.
So,
So thank you, Moon Card.
and it takes a while to get to that point where you're not you are obviously not trapped in book keywords, traditional meanings. It
Mm-mm.
takes a
No.
while to get to that point where you trust that voice or thought or vision that you get, but you trusted it and you spoke it. And that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Do
only
you,
way.
it's interesting that you're saying that, because do you ever feel now that when you do feel yourself about to say a keyword or something that is a traditional meaning, is there sometimes a little voice that's saying to you, are you just being lazy, sort of going with that? But sometimes I have to trust my intuition that no, you don't have to be all creative for this. Just go with the kind, just give the normal or the
Yeah,
expected
Yeah.
interpretation here.
Yeah.
absolutely.
You have to trust that as well, don't you? So yeah.
I see that in group all the time where their first hit is that traditional meaning or a keyword, and then they
Mm,
go all out into left field trying to get creative. Their yappy dog jumps in.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Sometimes the traditional meaning, if that's the if especially if it's a powerful this is what it means,
Yeah.
sometimes the traditional meaning is the right daggone meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
didn't become the traditional meaning without having some basis, and this comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. This is great.
I
This
love
has to
this
be
card.
what, yeah, me as well. This is definitely up there with my sort of favorite cards.
Me too.
No question about it.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't freak out when this card comes up. I like welcome it. I think, oh, now my reading's definitely going to get interesting. So,
Hmm.
which sign would you associate with this?
I
All of them?
I'm in Cancer.
Yeah, Cancer, and I do believe that Dusty said that the each sign has an avatar. He said that the avatar for Cancer before it was the crab was a lobster.
Yep.
Okay. But
Yep.
I do. see the other two water signs firmly in this card as well?
I can't say what I'm thinking.
Yes.
Uh, I definitely, I wouldn't just. I mean, yeah, obviously Cancer, but I can see the Scorpio there.
Mm-hmm.
That creature is crawling up from the depths. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And all the mystery side of things, and the kind of, the it could be, if there is something to do with the occult or something. Yeah, cool, it's there. What's going on in those towers? I don't know.
And the
And then
mutable nature of the moon and Pisces.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can see it
I
too.
kind of, I
Yeah.
can see them all there. To be honest, it's definitely a big water card, though. There's no getting away from that.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, marvelous. Anybody got anything else I want to say now before we all go and do our new moon in Aquarius rituals for the
Exactly.
next for the next 10 years?
Well, I think we can safely say that yay, we're all fans. So
Yeah, this one speaks. It has so much to say.
yeah, if
Yeah, it
somebody else
really does.
has different ideas, share them in
Yeah,
the comments because
yeah,
we've heard the plus side, the downside, everything with the moon, and everybody has
yeah.
a different take on it.
And let
And
me
just
add,
what do you think? What do you think in reverse? I sort of mentioned one of my reverse things, but what do you get out of it in reverse? We didn't really talk too much about that.
out of context with nothing to surround it with, that's usually when I get confusion,
Yeah.
or just not knowing where to go, or being deceived.
Or the deception's been revealed sometimes for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
Yes,
It
I
kind
feel
of
as the lights are starting to come on, things are now starting to become apparent.
mm-hmm.
And I want to add, as far as people putting their comments, do not be afraid if your
Mm-mm.
interpretations or the way you see the cards differ than ours. You've heard us
Oh,
have differing
definitely.
views. Nobody here, they better not. I know Mandy and Sally and I would never, but nobody here is going to say, that's stupid. It's going to help us grow and see things that we may not have seen
Yeah,
before. We may not adopt it as our own worldview, but we can always respect it.
yeah,
Yeah, it gives us more words
absolutely.
for our vocabulary too. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yay.
So, on that note, happy new moon, and
Happy new moon to you too.
yeah, see you next time. Bye.
That was great, Mandy. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.